Alrighty, today is the day that you've been waiting for. I've been waiting for. Yeah. It is probably the most fun day of the year. It is sand leveling day. So today we're gonna go over kind of steps for 101. If you don't have machinery, this is how you can do it. Or if you have a little bit of machinery or are able to rent some machinery, we're gonna kind of explain the whole entire process. But we're gonna be using my neighbor's yard. This is Ralph, my neighbor. He's been doing an amazing job. We scalped this. Actually, we did a scalping video a couple weeks ago. This was his yard. It greened up beautifully. He's been feeding it. He's been mowing it. He's actually been reel mowing it. So he's been doing a really good job. So we're going to use this as a test subject. So there you go. Ralph, you've sand leveled one time.
About 4 years ago.
4 years ago, it was really light. It wasn't really good.
Nope, it didn't cover the lawn.
So it looks level, but I can assure you, we'll show you a couple of shots of areas that are unlevel, just so you can see how deep we're filling and what we're doing. So yeah, let's get started. I'm excited. You ready? Let's go. So as you can see, we already had the core aerating done. Shout out to Precision Landscape Management in Greenville here. But they brought their stinger, they gave us some nice 2 to 3 inch cores, and now we're ready to pick them up. Yeah, these cores look really good. 6 minutes in and I'm already out of breath. So I'm just removing these cores. So there's a couple ways of removing the cores. One is with a leveling rake like this. Another one is you can take like a rotary mower and suck them up. So you set it on its lowest setting, you just suck them right up. The reason why I'm doing this, there's a spot in our HOA that is missing some grass. So we're gonna use these plugs since they're really nice, good soil plugs. We're gonna put these down on those bare spots in the HOA common areas. And with some rain and some irrigation, it'll take and it'll be Bermuda. So if you have spots in your yard that are a little bit bare or just don't have Bermuda, or you want it to be Bermuda, you can use these plugs, put them and transplant them into the other area, and it'll grow Bermuda. So that's why we're collecting these, is to donate them to an area that needs it. All right, now I'm gonna pick these up, put them in a wheelbarrow. So let's talk about height of grass. So right here, he obviously reel mows his grass, so it's nice and low. Right now it's at about 0.6 inches. So when you're aerating and leveling, it's better to have your grass as low as possible. So even if you don't reel mow, that's totally fine. I would, before you have it aerated and then top dressed, I would mow it at your lowest setting. So whatever mower you have, mow it at its lowest setting, make sure you bag it. It's what we would call a scalp, because it's gonna do one of two things. One, cleaning up the cores, if you're gonna do that, gonna be a little bit easier because your shovel will kind of slide right over top of it. Second is when you're leveling and you're scraping at the very end. So we put in piles all around the yard. So when we drag it, if you have longer grass, that drag is gonna really get caught up in the tall grass, if the grass is tall. It'll get caught up in the tall grass and it'll still level, it'll still be fine, but it won't do it as good of a job. So having shorter grass will help that drag across the grass a lot better, and will dissipate the sand in the lower areas as opposed to taller areas. If the grass was taller, it may get hung up in those taller areas as well. So that's why I say having low grass is gonna help this process tremendously, make it a lot easier for you. Boom. So here's what I'm talking about. We're gonna be transplanting these, but I just wanna show you, this is considered a process called like sprigging. So sprigging is taking active Bermuda rhizomes and runners and planting them into a bare area. But all of these pieces of Bermuda, those are all actively growing plants right here. So by putting these into bare areas, they'll root. So with water, sunlight, fertilizer, they'll root and just keep on growing. So that's why we're picking these up and transplanting them. So I know people may say this lawn already looks level. He's already reel mowing at 0.6 inches. Like, why do we need a top dress? Why do we need a sand level? I'm gonna show you a couple areas that I see, that he sees. There's a couple problem areas, but just to show you that even a real mowed yard can be a little bit unlevel and still real mow. But I'm gonna show you a couple spots that we're gonna be focusing on today. So right here, as you can see, this spot I would say is a good 3/4 of an inch to an inch low right here. There's about 8 or 9 different spots in the area that are about an inch tall. So this is perfect. This is mainly for if you have about 1 to 2 inch low spots, this is gonna be perfect for you. All right, let's talk sand. That was a horrible idea. So let's talk sand. What type of sand is good, what sand you should use, all that good stuff. So we're using a sand from Carolina Fresh Farms. So if you're in South Carolina, maybe North Carolina, I'm not sure exactly where they're located, but Carolina Fresh Farms has a sand called King's Mountain Sand. That's exactly what we're using today. So if you're in our area, that's a perfect place to go. It was about $50 per ton. And I'll go into how much you should be using in a second, but $50 per ton and then a little delivery fee on top of that. If you don't have access to Carolina Fresh Farms or any other place that does carry that King's Mountain Sand, you're gonna be looking for masonry sand. Masonry sand has the best texture of all the sands. There's a couple different sands that we'll cover, but masonry sand has the best texture in order to level your grass. There's also USGA spec, so if you get lucky enough to find a supplier that has USGA spec sand, that's also a perfect sand to use. Another possible sand that you can use is river sand. Now you wanna lay eyes on it. You wanna make sure that there's no large pebbles in it because a pebble in a window doesn't really work. So river sand will work, but if you're real mowing, I would try to avoid it. Definitely stick with masonry sand, but river sand, especially if it has smaller pebbles, smaller texture, it will be okay if you're just rotary mowing. Now the reason why we're not using soil today, so soil breaks down a lot easier than sand does. So the point of this is to level. If you're top dressing and you wanna bring nutrients into the soil, bring nutrients into your lawn is already level and you want to top dress it, using some soil or soil and sand mix is gonna be good. But if you're using soil to level, that's gonna erode a lot quicker. It's not gonna be there after the first rain. You're gonna have a very hard time keeping that level and you're gonna have to do it a lot more times than what you would do it with sand. All right, so let's get into how much you'll need. So for this area right here, we're about 3,000 square feet. So rule of thumb, and this is very broad, if your lawn is like super uneven, you may want to go a little bit more, but what we always say is for every 1,000 square feet of turf of lawn, you'll want about a ton of sand. It's going to be 1-to-1 ratio. If you have a very uneven yard and there's a lot of bumps, you may want to go 1.5 or even 2. That's obviously going to create a little bit more work, a little bit more cost, but you're going to get it in one swoop. So today we've got about 5 tons here. So we're gonna be doing 3 tons on the front roughly, and then about a ton on the side and then a little bit in the back. There's a couple areas that we're just gonna spot treat, but nothing big. So we're gonna be covering this entire front, covering the entire side, and then a little bit in the back. So that's why we got 5 tons. All right, so some equipment that we're gonna be using today. This is not an exhaustive list. You can actually get a couple more things. You can do a lot less things, but I'm gonna show you kind of the bare minimum, and then I'll show you what we're gonna be using today. So the absolute bare minimum is going to be a couple items. So a shovel and a wheelbarrow. If you don't have anything else but those things, you can level your lawn. An optional next tool would be something like this, something like a leveling rake. That's gonna help you level out that sand from those piles. So when you create piles with the wheelbarrow, you dump it in the yard, you can use the leveling rake to level that out and then ultimately level your entire lawn. Now today we have a couple more tools that we're going to be using just to make it a little bit easier, but like I said, if you just have those things, you can do it. All right, so my favorite equipment and something that's gonna save your back big time is gonna be something like a skid steer. I wouldn't go as far as to get like a sit-in skid steer, but this one is a stand-on skid steer. It's gonna save your back big time, but this one is actually officially the Lawn Dad's. As of a couple days ago, I did purchase this. I'm very excited about it. I did put turf wheels on it, but I just wanna show you that having this is going to be a huge back saver. And then something to go along with the very minimal tools and something that's gonna make your job a lot easier is having some sort of ride-on or sit-down zero turn, something that can pull a drag. The reason why I say you don't have to have one is you can borrow one from a neighbor. But I will say in the very end, you'll see having something like this to be able to pull a drag is gonna make your life a lot easier. It's gonna make the job go a lot quicker. So even if you only have a wheelbarrow and a shovel, see if you can borrow a zero turn, a stand-on mower, riding mower, something like that to attach a drag to on the back. That's gonna make the job go a lot easier. But this one, my good friends at Rolux allowed me to borrow this from them. This is a prototype that's coming soon. I don't wanna release anything yet, but this thing's awesome. Very excited to show you guys its capabilities, but my friends at Rolex hooked me up. Very excited about that. And then, like I was saying about the drag, you can buy a drag, you can have somebody make one out of metal, but the very easiest solution that I've found is having two 4x4s by 8s, and then a 2x4. We're gonna attach those together. I'm gonna show you how to make your own drag. This was a total of like $25, a lot cheaper than a leveling rake. So if you, again, wanted to go bare minimum, which I'm trying to show you how to do, having something like this to pull behind that zero turn that you borrow is gonna save your back, and it's gonna make this job go a lot easier. So hopefully that helps you. And then finally, if you want a piece of machine that's gonna make the job really easy and just like completely hands off, you can rent one of those throwers. So they make top dressers, Ecolon 250 or an Earth and Turf, and those things will make the job extremely easy. I didn't want to do that today because I wanted to show you that you didn't need one of those tools, but that job is going to make it a lot easier if you do get one of those throwers. I'm not exactly sure where you can rent them locally, but call around to your local rental places, tell them that you're looking for a top dresser that, again, will throw that sand, make a quick job out of that pile of sand that we're going to be moving today. All right, so after we picked up the cores, the next step we're gonna do is fertilize. So this is actually, you don't have to do this right now. You can do it now. You can do it a day before, a week before. However you do it, you just wanna get some fertilizer down because that grass is gonna need to grow through that sand. You want it to grow as aggressively as possible, so now is a great time to fertilize. So right now we're just gonna do, if you have just a shovel and a wheelbarrow, I'm gonna level a spot for you just so you can see. So we dump it into piles, so if you're focusing on just certain spots, dump it over it. You're gonna take the leveling rake, and you're gonna knock it down. And go over those spots. The bigger the leveling rake, the more level it'll be. You can buy very small ones on Amazon, but just know that the wider it is, more of an area that it covers and the more area that will span over that bump. So I like to use a 48-inch leveling rake. This one is from R&R, hashtag not sponsored. R&R, I'll link it down below. But this one, again, if you're just doing spots, this is a perfect leveling rake to come in, and you're just gonna spread sand over that spot, work it in. Go from multiple different angles just so you're getting as level as possible. So as we saw from the piece of wood that I had covered, there's a huge gap. So right now that sand is a lot closer to that level. So this could be an instance where we do this over multiple periods of time. So once this grows through, maybe in July, you put another round of sand on top of it. And that's how you would kind of spot level. So just focus on little areas that are a little bit lower in your lawn. You don't have to do the whole thing. You can just focus on spots. All right, so we got all of the sand dumped. There's no rhyme or reason how far apart they need to be, how much it is. I just did a scoop every 6 to 8 feet. It's all about quantity. Remember I said at the very beginning, you wanna do about a ton or a yard per 1,000 square feet. So I roughly got that pile split up into about 3 tons. That's what's out here. At the end, if you have to do a little bit more, you can take a wheelbarrow and a shovel and throw it. But right now we're going to create a drag and then just start dragging these piles and level them out. So this is my setup to just drag these piles around. So as you saw, I put together 2 4x4x8s, and then I had a couple of 2x4s that I just put strips down. This is not exact. You don't have to make it perfect. I just did it at 32 inches end to end. If you wanted to make that longer, if you wanted to add another 4x4 in, do whatever, but total this costs about 25 bucks. So trying to make it as DIY friendly as possible. I've used this a couple times, this style a couple times. It works out great. Strap it to whatever mower you got, and let's rock and roll. All right, I think screws are the way to go, not nails. That is, I've always used screws, and then this is the first time I use nails. There's a reason why I used screws in the first time, so screws it is. So we have successfully thrown sand and leveled out Ralph's yard. He's actually kind of nervous, but don't worry, the grass is gonna grow through it. So a couple of tips on the aftercare is watering. You wanna water it for the first week, about 20 minutes a morning. That's just until the grass starts popping through. Those lower spots, it could take longer than about 3 weeks, but I would say typically expect the grass to grow through and you be mowing in about 2 weeks. So those are the final tips that I got for you. Other than that, hopefully you enjoyed this video. Hopefully you learned a little bit. Until next time, we'll talk to you soon.